Rice packed with Puerto Rican flavors, cooked with pork, beans, and olives come together to make this savory Puerto Rican dish that is ever so popular here in Hawaii. But there's a twist, so stick around. Aloha mai kako, my name is Relle and welcome to my kitchen where I like to share all my favorite island and Hawaiian style recipes. And today I've got a good one for you. We're gonna be making Gandule rice, but there's a little trick to it and we'll get to that in a bit. So first, Gandule rice is a popular Puerto Rican dish. So the Puerto Ricans came to Hawaii in the early 1900s. They had a big tornado, not a tornado, a hurricane back in the days and wiped out their plantations and a lot of people lost their homes. So they moved to Hawaii to work on the sugar plantations here. So along they brought their food. And one thing that we still make today is Gandule rice. First, we're gonna start with white rice. I like to use medium grain rice, but that's what we eat here in Hawaii, so that's what I have. If you wanna use something different, totally up to you. You're gonna take this, you're gonna rinse it under cool running water until the water runs clear. I did that already, so we'll just set this aside. Then the next step is to start the pork. And what we're gonna do is get some achiote oil and we're gonna put it into a pan set over medium-high heat. It gives this vibrant orange color. Now, achiote seeds look like this. They come from a plant that has like a pod, and so they look like this. They're very tiny. And how to make the oil is you would put the oil into the pot and boil it with the seeds in it, and when you're done, it'll look like this. So I just strained it and put the seeds inside. So when we need the oil, we just take the oil and put it in here. So that's how we make that, quick and easy. And you set that in. Little story. As a kid, our neighbor had an achiote tree down the road, and they have little pods that look like this, and you crack it open and it has the seeds inside. We used to take those seeds, mix it in water, and put it in the water guns and play water gun fight, but they stain your clothes and got in a little bit of trouble. Sorry, Mom, for all my stained clothes, but that was definitely a fun thing to do as a kid. All right, so now the pork. I like to use a mixture half of bacon, half of pork, tenderloin, but you can use really any cut. If you use a more hearty cut, like not stew meat, the pork butt or pork shoulder, it just might cook a little bit longer. So the tenderloin, it's a lot softer. So while this is heating up, we'll just trim it down. So you use it again, half. You don't have to do it like that. Everybody has their own way, but this is how I do mine. So I just like to cut the pork in half like this, if you have small pieces, and then they'll just be skinny, thin strips that you'll just bite-sized pieces like that. And that just helps it to cook down and brown up like that. So you'll cut this down. We'll do that to the other couple of pieces as well. If you have the pork shoulder, you definitely want to cut those down a little bit smaller because it's a thicker cut of meat. It's more firm. What's a great word for that? Anyway, the tenderloin is up on the back side of the pig. It's not a muscle that gets used as much, so it's more tender. So Puerto Ricans, there are a lot of them here in Hawaii, and like I mentioned, they came to work on the sugar plantations. And when they came, they brought their food and their music, and people, of all the different ethnicities would get together at lunch and share their lunches and what they had, and everybody was like, ooh, let me try yours, let me try yours. And so this was definitely one. That, pateles, those are common recipes that even nowadays we still cook here. And another thing the Puerto Ricans have a big impact on here in Hawaii is music, which interestingly enough, while doing some research for this things to talk about, I found out that the Puerto Ricans brought over a musical instrument, giron. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's like a dried gourd, and they would use a stick to rub on it, and that would make music. And the Japanese actually called it scratch, and the word for scratch in Japanese is kachi. So kachi, it's a popular type of music here in Hawaii. So learn something new every day. All right, pork cut. And then we're gonna do the same thing for the bacon. You can use whatever type of bacon. You don't have to use bacon if you don't want, but I think it just adds a nice smoky flavor. Just same thing, thin strips. Doesn't have to be nice. It's gonna get all mixed together. I feel like every nationality has like almost like a fried rice type of recipe. While this is not fried, it is a rice dish. Normally I would hold them, but we're just gonna hold it with the tongs. Okay, bite-sized pieces of that. So half pork tenderloin, half of the bacon, right? Now that our pan has heated up, we have the achiote oil in there. And you're gonna cook this until it browns up. We're gonna add some salt and pepper in a bit. And while the pan is really, really full, it'll cook down really quickly and become a lot smaller as well. So there'll be space. You just wanna toss it in there and we'll add some salt and pepper. Have it in the same container. Just made it easier. Salt, pepper. And yes, I will switch out the tongs. I know you guys are gonna tell me don't use the tongs on the ceramic coated, but this one is ceramic coated, not Teflon, so it's not as bad. So we can switch it to the wooden spoon so nobody says anything about it. This is gonna cook down and then we'll chop up the veggies as that goes, okay? So now we're gonna make the veggie mix. It's basically like a sofrito. In Puerto Rican dishes, that's a popular flavor, but we'll do it a little bit differently. First, you're gonna take some garlic. You'll need about 4 cloves. If you like it more garlicky, you can totally add more. Again, I love this garlic press. It makes it so much easier than crushing it. So all you have to do is put it in, squeeze, and it gets pushed through in these fine minced chunks. Not chunks, I don't know what's a great word for it, but super easy, time saving. If you want one, I'll link the one I have in the description box below. And also all recipe instructions and ingredients are in the description box below. I know a lot of people always ask. You can find all of that there. And then onion. This is a pretty big onion. This is a sweet onion. I don't know, I like using those. So use about half. Peel off that outside layer. Compost, you can make vegetable stock. Up to you. The trick for this, I know I've showed you guys this time and time again before, but I really like it. It's so much quicker. So you'll cut off a little bit of the top just to get that dried piece off of it. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna cut the onion into layers this way horizontally. Be careful of your fingers, but you're not gonna cut it all the way through. You're gonna cut it just until you get to the root and stop right before. You're gonna make a few layers of it like that. If it comes out, don't worry about it. You can just stick it right back in. Then you'll turn it and you'll make cuts this way. And same thing, you don't want to cut through to the root because it'll fall apart if you do that. Be careful of your fingers. It starts to slide around a little bit at this point. And then lastly, you're going to turn it and cut it this way. And that'll give you some nice small pieces of onions. You don't want it to be large pieces because then you'll bite into big chunks and nobody likes that, right? So I like to do it like this. You can flip it and cut the end. Cut those pieces if you want. And you can save that for stock or compost or toss it, totally up to you. So we'll put that into a bowl. Little tip for this. Normally I make this on the stove top, but I just don't have time to stand around the stove and watch the rice cook. So I'll show you the trick of making it in the rice pot or the Instant Pot. And then we'll just stir the pork a little because you'll want to brown up all the sides. My eyes are a little bit watery with the onions. So this is mixed up a little bit and we'll let that brown some more. We did the onions, we did the garlic, now bell pepper. I like the green one, but you can use red or yellow if you want. That's up to you. And you'll only need about half of this as well. So cut that. And you don't want the seeds. The seeds are hot. You don't want to bite into a seed, right? So take the seeds out. You can rinse it. There's also a layer of like this fibrous tissue. You can remove that as well. Probably easier to just trim it like that. And you can just slide the knife under and remove that piece. And then you'll do it again on this side. And cut that side off. So now we're gonna move the seeds to the side. And then these ones, we're gonna just cut them into small strips like this. As always told, tuck your fingers in so you don't chop them. And then turn them the other way and chop it this way. And again, you're making really tiny pieces to go in. We could probably make a little bit more. It's kind of a small. We'll put those in here. I need a bench scraper. That would work great, for this. Those things will then go into the pork. And while it's not super browned at this point, that's okay. Part of it is because I'm using this portable cooktop. And because the pan is a little bit larger than the cooktop, normally I would do it on the stove. Or if you're cooking it in the Instant Pot, you can saute it in the Instant Pot itself. So once that's set, we're gonna set the onions, the bell peppers, and the garlic in. The garlic that we crushed up. Stir that around a bit and get all those flavors to mix in. And you're just gonna cook this until the onions become translucent. It just takes a couple of minutes. So keep an eye on it. You don't want it to brown too much at this point. And then while that's cooking down, we'll do the more tender veggies. So some green onions and some cilantro. You only need a few stems, but what I like to do is cut it and I keep the bottom. So put them back in your garden. So like this, then you take this and you can either just put them into like a napkin with water into a jar, or you can dunk them straight back into the ground. And then so your stalks, you'll line them up like this, and then all you have to do is cut it into thin strips like this. So just run your knife down the green onions. Some people like the white parts, but here I feel like we mainly use the green parts. Tell me, do you use the white parts and the green parts? I don't have super quick cutting skills, remember, I'm not a chef. I just like to share my recipes, you know. My goal, it's to have people to sit down around the dinner table, spend time with your kids. You know, my son is 8, my daughter's 5, and pretty soon they're gonna be too cool to wanna hang out with me. So while technology is nice, it really takes up a lot of our time. So it's important to me at the end of the night, or at the end of the day, to make a wholesome meal for the kids and sit down and talk stories. How was your day? What'd you do? And doing that, the best way to get people to sit down at the table is with food. So that's why I'm here to share my recipes with you, so you can make some and share it with your family as well. Get your kids to sit down and eat things, try things maybe that they haven't had before. So you're just gonna trim off a piece. Honestly, you don't really have to measure exactly. And this was something that we never really measured before. So because I'm trying to share my recipe, I had to try and figure out exactly how much to make. And same thing, you're gonna kind of roll it up. And you know what? I just chop the stems too. If you really don't want the stems, you can peel off the leaves and do that. Don't hate. Don't at me for that. So like I mentioned, as a busy mom, we gotta find ways to improvise, right? So I've always cooked this on the stove top. We'll go ahead and put this in. So the cilantro, put that on, and the green onions will go over top. These are softer, so they'll break down a lot quicker. So we add them in after. Like I mentioned, as a working mom, I just don't have time to stand around the stove and watch rice cook. I am a total fan of the rice pot, the rice cooker, making rice in there. I mean, I feel like everybody in Hawaii has a rice pot. Not everybody, but you know what I mean. Do you have a rice pot? Do you use the rice cooker too? I do. Let me know. Leave a comment in the comment box below. Are you team rice cooker? So what I decided to do was adapt the recipe that I normally make and make it in the rice pot, or the Instant Pot. But funny story is, I made it in the rice pot, and I have a small little 5-cup rice cooker. There's 4 of us in the family. And I usually make 3 cups of rice for this. So I put it all in and poured the things too full. Couldn't do it with that. So then I brought out the Instant Pot. So I'll show you how to make it in that. All right, we'll just let this cook down, and we'll be right back. So now that everything has cooked down, and see how the onions are translucent, bell peppers have softened, we're gonna remove the pork mixture and we'll take it out, and then we'll swap this out for the Instant Pot. Now, if you're making it on the stove, which you totally can, and that's how I would make it as well, you would use like a Dutch oven or a heavy bottom pot, and you would just cook the meat in that, and then you'll just dump everything straight into that. But because we are doing it in the Instant Pot, to save some time from standing there, and honestly, I find it easier to make it in there. The rice pot, same concept. You would take it out of here, put it into the rice pot. I would have to get a bigger rice pot to make this recipe size, which we do have, but that one is put away for like when we have get-togethers and things. Now that we've got everything moved out of the way, we'll move over to our Instant Pot, and I've got a 6-quart here. If you've got an 8-quart, it'll easily fit. I'm not sure if the 3-quart will fit, but so little tip here that I found a lot of people don't know is that this little knob here, you can place it into the handle and it'll hold your lid up. So it's awesome. Okay, so into the Instant Pot, we're gonna take the white rice that we washed with cool water and drained earlier, and we'll pour that in. It's okay if there's a little bit of water in there from rinsing it out earlier. So that goes in. Then into that, we're gonna add some chicken broth. You can use vegetable broth, I guess, if you wanted to, or beef broth, but I like chicken broth. You can use water, but honestly, I don't recommend water because it's not as flavorful. So generally, I do 1 to 1. So 1 cup of rice to 1 cup of chicken broth. But A cup of rice is not a traditional cup of rice. A cup of rice is a little bit smaller, the one that comes with the rice pot. It's about 3/4 cup, honestly. So if you're gonna use a regular size cup, you can do the same for this. And with that, you'll wanna make sure that if you use brown rice or jasmine rice, you might have to adjust accordingly. Then we're gonna add some tomato sauce, 1 can, this is 8 ounces. We'll pour that over the top. And then the big part of the flavor in this is sazan goya. It's cilantro, achiote, and a few other things I think in here. Anyway, it's a seasoning packet. You can find this in the Spanish aisle at most grocery stores. So I like to use 2. If you like this flavor, you want more, you can add more. If you want less, you can use less. Open it, and it's like a red orange powder. It has a earthy smell to it. So you're gonna add that whole thing into the pot. So just pour both. If you wanna do more, you wanna do less. If you do it different, by all means, go get them. This is just the way I do it. We're gonna add gandule beans. The English word is green pigeon peas. You can get this at your local grocery store as well. What you're gonna do is pour that in. These are rinsed and drained. So drain out the water that's already in it, run it through the water and drain it a couple of times. And they look like that. And then olives, you'll want these pitted as well. I just buy them pitted, don't pit them yourself, it takes too long. And then same thing, 1 can drained. Go ahead and put that in. And lastly, you'll add the pork mixture that we cooked up earlier, and that just goes over the top. So as you can see, this one is starting to get pretty full. Like I said, this is a 6 quart. If you've got a 3, I don't know if this size recipe, you might have to cut it down a little bit. And then we'll stir it up. So you'll wanna make sure everything is well combined. Make sure all the flavors, can't speak today, is mixed in well so that the rice can absorb those packets that we put in. And the nice thing about the Instant Pot is it has a rice setting, so you don't even have to watch it. Same thing with the rice pot. You just push the button down and it like senses and it knows when it's done. The problem, not problem, I guess, but when you cook it on the stove, it makes it a little bit harder because you actually have to monitor the liquid at that point. Now, if you like a more dry, not as sticky, I would add a little bit less liquid. This makes it like a sticky, almost sticky white rice consistency, and some people don't like it like that. That's fine. Put a little bit less liquid. And you see how there's like no rice at the top? All of the rice is below the liquid, which even if you really stir it up, like most of the time it settles down anyway, but if it happens to have some rice on the top, just kind of make sure that that's under the liquid itself so it soaks all that up. Then we'll set the top on like this and you'll lock it. That's the Instant Pot sound, right? And then you'll take this knob, turn it from venting to sealing, so this locks it. Now as it starts to build pressure, the steam won't come out. And then I had it on saute, and that kind of just makes it heat up a little bit quicker. You don't have to do that, but I like to do that when we start cooking. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna hit keep warm, cancel. That'll turn off the saute and it'll say off. Then all you have to do is hit the rice button here. It'll automatically set it for low pressure, 12 minutes, and it'll cook on its own. So we'll just let that go. You'll allow natural pressure release. That's telling me that it's starting to build up pressure now. Once it's done, you allow natural pressure release, and all that means is you won't turn this knob. Once it's done, it'll slowly release pressure on its own for at least 10 minutes, and then you can let the pressure out. I'll be right back as soon as it's done. And we're back. So after 10 minutes of natural pressure release, sometimes the pin will have already dropped. This one went a little bit further because we were setting things up for the video, but if the pin hasn't dropped, then what you're gonna do is open this from sealing to venting. Be careful, there may be some steam that comes out. The rest of the steam will let out. The pin has already dropped, and then all you can do is open it, but listen to the sound. That's the Instant Pot sound. So we'll lift that up, get the steam to go away from you, and then we'll hold the lid again with this into the pot. So awesome, right? So as you can see, it rolls up, the liquids have absorbed into the rice, and you can start to see some of the rice on the top. All you've got to do is fluff it up a little bit. You can use a fork or a spoon, and then basically all you want to do is kind of get it to fluff like this. So you see how the rice is pretty sticky in here? One way, if you don't like it this sticky, is just to put it out on a tray or on like a baking dish or a pan and let it sit. Kind of like when you make rice at home in the rice pot. When it first comes out, it's a little bit sticky, a little bit wet, and you just let it kind of cook through and get the rest of the liquids to come down. So just kind of fluff it up And it's a little, like I said, it's a little soppy. If you don't like it like this, you can add a little bit more. Scoop that into the bowl. And if you want something delicious to eat with this, you can't go wrong with some good old patelle stew. And if you want to check out that recipe, I have a link here, or you can check out the link in the description below. And until next time, hui ho. It's hot.
Thank you for watching my mommy's video.